Silencer Central. Folks, if you want to learn something new right alongside me, check it out at silencercentral.com. I've never put a suppressor on any of my weapons, but I'm going to start now, and I'm using Silencer Central to help get me started because they walk you through the whole process, to include you can ship the rifle to them, they'll thread it, they'll put it on, and they will ship it back, and you can make payments on the whole thing while you wait for all the licensing to get approved, which they take care of for you. It's a great process, and it's a great company, American manufacturer, right there in South Dakota, and we are really excited to be partnering with them. So check it out at silencercentral.com or give them a call at 888-781-8778 and let them know that you heard it on the Western Huntsman. Hoffman Boots is my go-to boot. I love the Explorers in the 8-inch, and they've got the Vibram sole, totally waterproof, no break-in period. They just glue your feet to the mountain. You can't ask for more out of a boot, and you don't have to break the bank to get a pair. So check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Again, another American company. Local North Idaho friend of mine who runs this company decided to make some great hunting boots for all people that are serious about getting into the backcountry to chase elk and deer and bear and everything else out there. So check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Use promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 at checkout to save you 10%. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Town studio in Clark Fork, Idaho. How you guys doing? New week, new guest. It's going to be a good show this week. I'm really excited about this one. I know I say that about every one of them, but I'm really excited about this one. My new friend, Mike Duplan. He is a writer. He's a retired firefighter, and he is one of those prolific hunters that if you're not following on Instagram, you need to be, because he's just a great dude. I think we're going to learn a lot from him. Mike, I appreciate you joining me, man.
Glad to be here.
So hang on, I got to turn you up there. Say glad to be here one more time.
Glad to be here.
Hey, now we got it. See, I told you I was a half-ass amateur at this.
Hey, as long as you hit record, that's all that matters.
Yeah, man, it's recording. We're good. So, no, I really appreciate you joining me. This is gonna be a good conversation. I think we got a lot to cover, and a lot of good things to talk about. So, kick us off. Give us like a quick snapshot of who you are and your background, and we'll go from there.
God, where do I start? I got a long story. I was just born in Minnesota. Parents divorced when I was a little kid. Hauled to Arizona. Lived there for a while. Moved to Southern California, in the LA area, and moved up to a small town called Tehachapi, California, and went to high school there. And it seemed like forever as a young man living there, but it was just a few years out of my life. And then I picked up in my 22nd year and moved to Colorado, and was working construction, going to school, night classes at the local community college, and went to work in a homeowner center and met another off-duty firefighter working there. And he convinced me I needed to take the test for the fire department. So I took 3 tests, and on my third one, I got hired. What? And so that was the start of a very fortunate aspect of my life to have that happen. So,
I've never met a firefighter who wasn't, just had this deeper sense of duty and satisfaction out of the job. What?
Yeah, it was a great life. I mean, it really was. There's obviously a lot of negative things that go along with being a first responder. But, what it gave me was an exceptional opportunity in life and time and just something you don't get in a 9 to 5.
Yeah, for sure. I got a buddy. Well, I got a bunch of buddies that are firefighters, but one of them, the way his schedule is, he works in North Idaho, or I'm sorry, he lives in North Idaho, but flies somewhere to California. I'm not sure where. So it's near LA, and stays there for a week as a firefighter, and then comes home and he has like 2 weeks off, and they pay him way better than if he just stayed local. So he's got all this time to hunt.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure he does his own custom schedule, working trades and that kind of thing. So when he's down there on shift, he can, work quite a few days and then comes back and he's got those trades lined up for that. And I don't know of any departments that have a week on, 2 weeks off. That would be pretty strange. But we had a 48-96 schedule, 2 on, 4 off, and so there was times where it was difficult, just as far as just getting hammered for calls and up at night, that kind of thing, training and everything. There's a lot going on, but you had a whole 4 day to recuperate, and then you had a lot of time to do your own thing. So,
I had so I went to EMT school when I first got out of the service, and as part of in order to get the EMT certification back then, I don't know if it's still like this, but you had to go tag along with the fire department for a day and do a ride along.
Yeah, clinical ride along.
Yeah, and I was so excited about this, Mike. I was all stoked to go hang out with the firefighters, and it was really cool. They had this big kitchen in the firehouse and living room area and all this. I was all excited to go on a call. We get this call. We head out. I'm riding in the fire truck and feeling pretty cool. And we get there, and the call was some homeless dude that drank a bunch of Listerine to the point where he was so drunk he passed out in some city park. And that's what the call was. What kind of calls? What kind of, is there an average of emergency, what would you call that? Not a medical, like a diabetes or heart attack kind of call, more like a, car crash / fire / whatever. I know there's a different term for them, but I don't know what it is. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, there's a lot of false alarms with alarm systems. Businesses, office buildings with people burning popcorn in the microwave, and just faulty systems, and there's lift assist at nursing homes because for whatever reason, insurance companies don't allow their staff to pick people up off the floor anymore. They call 911, and the fire department has to go there and pick the person up off the floor. There's a lot of that, and primarily it's those and medical calls, and then there's a few fires mixed in, and all the random stuff that's everybody's worst day usually involves a firefighter. So
yeah, for sure. What year was it that you took the test and got hired?
I got hired in 92. I first started testing in 90, I believe.
So it took, it's a process, huh?
Oh yeah. What's interesting now is our latest test was the least amount of applicants that we've seen in years. And it's really, there's fire departments that are having trouble hiring people now. And
oh, really?
I think it's a reflection on the new generation and the workforce and COVID and all those factors combining to make people think they just don't want to do that. So
yeah, I could see that. I could see that. It's there is like this cultural thing where I think there's this lack of willingness to do something for the greater good outside of just thinking about what's great for you. You know what I mean? And we can get into all that, but before we go down that road, I'm curious about your hunting background as well. Like, did you grow up hunting?
Not at all.
Tell us a little bit about that.
My first hunting involved a BB gun and a gray squirrel in the mountains above LA near Big Bear. And so that was my first experience. Oh yeah, just trying to hit a squirrel up in a giant ponderosa pine with a BB gun. And that was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. And I moved up to Tehachapi, and I was in the, when we used to have school pictures, we're in the line for school pictures, and I was standing next to this kid who ended up, he's my best friend still to this day, but we became fast friends. He was the shortest kid in the freshman class. I was the tallest kid in the freshman class, and he came from a hunting background, And that was September, beginning of the school year. And we immediately hit it off, and I started tagging along with him. And by the next summer, I was earning money to cutting firewood to buy my guns. And it went from there. And I started off shooting little California mule deer and just dreamed of hunting big bucks in Colorado. And that really was the preceding factor for me wanting to move out to Colorado. I wanted to come out and hunt big bucks in Colorado, and that's why I moved out there. So that's a short story.
Yeah,
pretty long.
Definitely the condensed version, I'm sure. But I was going to ask you that if going to Colorado hunting, if that was like a motivation, or if that was just maybe availability in a fire department to get you a job kind of thing. But
nope, that was the number one motivation. I had no plans other than moving out here and just starting from scratch. And you know, when you're 21 years old doing that kind of thing, that's a kind of unusual. Not many people actually pull up and move and that at that age, going away from family and friends and everything. But that's what I wanted, and I was that driven for it at that age. So I knew what
regrets?
I wanted.
Any regrets with that?
No. Maybe instead of Colorado, it might have been Alaska in retrospect. But
yeah. You know, I love the draw and there is something about Alaska. I mean, it's a different place, right? But
for sure.
I don't know if I could live there between where I live now, the winters are plenty long, and then Alaska's worse, and they don't have a hell of a lot of elk hunting.
No mule deer.
Yeah, mule deer, no elk.
You know,
but
I think one of the most difficult thing about being in Alaska is unless you own your own airplane, you are logistically challenged and it's expensive. And so while the hunting is readily available, it's getting there is another thing. So
yeah,
I mean, you got to be creative and all that, but it would make it challenging for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I've always had a desire to like give Alaska a shot, but I think that's what kind of did it. I don't know. I've gone through enough North Idaho winters, and I'm over it. I'm ready to pick up and go down to like Arizona almost.
I've been to Alaska at least a dozen times.
Have you?
Yeah, hunting trips and vacation. Just my last trip up there was a Dall sheep hunt in 2020. And took my family up there, my daughters and my wife, and we went salmon fishing and down out of Cordova for a week, and then toured around a little bit up to Denali, and they flew home, and I went on my hunt. So,
that'd be a ball. My daughters,
it was great.
That's I told them when they're done with high school and they're graduating from which we homeschool, but still, when they graduate from high school, they can pick a little vacation, and they both picked Alaska, and their motivation is they want to fly fish, hunt moose, and go on one of those boat tours where you could see a beluga whale. And I didn't even know what a beluga whale was. I had to look it up. So that's the plan, I guess.
Yeah.
So since then, you've written for Eastman's Hunting Journals, which is right up my alley. You've written for Western Hunting Mag. What else have you written for? Because I know there's a lot, but
Mule Deer Foundation, Fair Chase, Boone and Crockett. Not much more than that. There's probably another magazine or two, but I never did any of the big ones like Outdoor Life, Sports Afield, or Field and Stream. So,
and you're still writing.
Yes. In fact, it's harder now because I feel like it's doing homework, and I enjoy writing, but I also I like to do it on my own schedule, and it just seems like it sneaks up on me the print deadlines, and all of a sudden I'm just like, geez, it's like just the feeling of having homework that's due tomorrow. So, not a big fan of that, but. It just goes along with procrastination too. So,
did that mentality kind of happen? Did that develop after you retired from the fire department, or have you always kind of had that feeling?
That's hard to say. It's definitely different now that I've retired, and a lot of people ask me like, "What are you going to do when you retire?" I'm like, whatever the hell I want every day. Within reason. But it's nice not having. To answer to people. I obviously answer to my wife on, we have a relationship, and, there's that, but, she's not giving me a list of things to do, and, telling me I need to do all this stuff all the time. I have enough sense of self-responsibility. I know what to get done. So
Sure. On your Instagram, it says, if it was easy, everyone could do it.
Yeah.
I really like that line. And I want to talk about that for a minute. Can you expand on what you mean by that?
Well, you look at what, my Instagram page isn't just, highlight reel of my life. It's what my life is all about. And, I feel like I have some exceptional photographs. I've taken exceptional animals, and I feel like I'm a pretty decent writer. And, none of that comes without effort. And if it was easy, everybody would do it, but it's not. And so, there's this is part of the world we live in right now. It's like, it's just human nature. People are looking for an easier way to do things and get the accolades and the recognition without actually, doing the sets and reps. Mm-hmm. So, there is all this stuff as a process. I mean, I didn't kill all those big bucks on accident. There's a lot of effort and time went into all that stuff. And, granted, I was doing a lot of the hunting at a really prime time in Colorado when, we happened to get the season structure rearranged and limit tags, and, we had abundance of big deer, but, it's still, I had the knowledge and the skill set at that point to be successful. And now it's gotten so bad where, you could do all those things that I did back then, but if you don't have just lucky breaks, none of that matters. So,
sure.
I think I guess the value of applying yourself in hard work and learning it is what's really important. When I first, I think the first published article I ever wrote was for Mule Deer Foundation magazine, and a guy by the name of Scott Stouter, I submitted it to him, and he actually called me up and gave me some good critical feedback on constructive criticism on my writing. Mm-hmm. And, I've been an avid reader my whole life. And so I think when you read a lot, you kind of develop a subconscious ability to put those kind of thoughts together in sentences. So I've been told I'm a good writer. I think it's all relative to who your audience is.
Well, I mean, it goes without saying, Mike, the amount of articles that you've written and that have therefore been published speaks for itself. I mean, we're in the thousands. You're like in the thousands of articles.
Probably not that many. A couple hundred. No, I don't think so. But a few hundred. Okay. For sure.
Okay. So
I think a nice compliment I have from the owner of Western Hunter magazine and Western Hunter TV show, Chris Denham. He basically gives me free rein to do whatever I want. He puts no handcuffs on me at all, and he also they hardly touch my stuff when it goes to editing, and so having that kind of confidence in me is I think a great compliment.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I really appreciate it, and I've kind of gotten over the writing how-to stuff. As I just don't really feel it doesn't do much for me anymore. I feel like I have to have some purpose when I'm going to spend the time and write something in my thoughts and everything. And so that little bit of creativity, I think, it allows me to be more inspired as a writer, as opposed to top 10 tactics for big bucks or some of that other horse shit that people want to. Say it is what it is. Some people want to read that stuff, and I can't hardly stand it anymore. But,
no, I can't either, man. I'll be honest with you. I've never really cared for those kind of articles in the past, only because I'd feel like I'd spend all this time reading those articles, and there wasn't a lot of tangible information that came from it. It was like real obvious stuff. Like it's a lot of we're just trying to fill the pages. And that's
Yeah.
not always the case. I don't mean to like offend anybody. It's not always the case. There were some really good and well-written articles and whatnot, but I don't know. I like the deeper articles. I like the stuff that is trying to solve a problem or something like that. What do you like to write about?
It's all over the board. I mean, I really like to write with reflection, and I wrote an article a couple years ago about Joe Rogan, and for Western Hunter magazine.
Oh, really?
And it was over 2,000 words, and I basically said fear, or the title was "Fear Isn't a Factor," and obviously a kind of a spin-off of his starring on Fear Factor years ago.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe Joe is the biggest voice for hunting on the planet, and I think it's you can say what you want about what he does, but it's far more positive than it is negative. He's showing people about the field to the table process, and
Mm-hmm.
how and shining a great light on hunting. And when I hear a guy like Matt Ranella just trashing, it's just like, I think it's absolute horseshit. It's like, this guy is the best voice for hunting on the planet, and I just don't understand. I know where Matt's coming from, but I don't agree with him at all on that. I think it's a pretty selfish mindset to have relative to the big picture of where we are at in the battles we fight on not only the national stage but the worldwide stage in regards to hunting. So to have a guy like Joe Rogan he's the biggest podcaster on the planet, and to espouse the virtues and how important it is, it's like, geez, what more could you ask for, man?
I know, seriously. I think about that. The thing with like Matt Ranella, I understand where he's coming from. I understand some of his frustrations, and there's a lot of things he says that I tend to agree with. I just think that a lot of what, like the platform he's pushing, there's just not a lot of realistic expectation or goals. Nothing's going to come out of that. It's not realistic to think that we're not going to have hunting media and hunting shows and hunting promotions and stuff like that. And to your point, what I really like about Joe Rogan is he's got this massive audience of, everybody that listens to this show, for the most part. I get some anti-hunters that listen to just so they can, come at me and write bad reviews on my shit. But most of them are hunters. Joe Rogan's audience is probably the lion's share of them are not hunters. But he has a way of humanizing hunting and normalizing it to people that might not otherwise understand it. And that is good for hunting. That's why we have this, this mass public belief and belief in the positive. Sorry, I've got this giant mosquito coming at me, dude, in the studio, and I'm trying to swat it away and talk at the same time. Okay, I got it. Anyway, he's normalized something that people that have never been exposed to hunting would maybe not ever understand and might have a negative connotation for, because they just don't know it. They think, oh man, some redneck's going out and shooting a deer from the window of his truck, and Joe Rogan has been able to on a very large scale get the message out to people that that's not what hunting is. Hunting is human. It's a humanistic thing. And I don't understand why, when you have somebody like Joe Rogan or even Cam Hanes, like Cam Hanes, he takes a lot of flack from people, and it's so unnecessary. And I just don't understand why people attack those guys and act like it's almost like there's this level of jealousy or something.
And I don't think Matt comes from a place of jealousy. I think he comes from a place of he's ideologically driven.
I wasn't referring to Matt, but
I know that, but just in my mind, he's ideologically driven. But hunting means so much to him, and he looks at what the threats are to hunting, and he perceives in his own mind that these are some of the biggest threats to him. But I have a different opinion on that. Everybody's got their own on that, but I just feel like there's an aspect of hunting and just social media and everything else that goes along with it. It's deeper than a lot of the superficial things that we think. There is a part of hunting that is ingrained in us, including the desire for recognition for your success. And it's deep-seated and it's tribal. And some people can say they can separate themselves from that primitive instinct to be recognized by your peers and accepted by the tribe. And, that's great. If they're at that point where they're so far advanced that they're able to distance themselves from those feelings,
yeah,
that's great. But that's actually part of the whole thing of why there's a lot of negative connotations associated with all these things, with social media, field photos, grip and grins, all the other stuff that goes along with it, social media. We have a large tribe out there that's, instead of the cave wall where we're drawing pictures, we've got this invisible digital world that we're accessed through, a 4-inch by 3-inch phone in our pocket.
It's funny you say that, because I'm actually I was scrolling through your Instagram, and you've got the it looks like Canyonlands National Park with the the scrolling on the wall, and they're all bow hunting, and look at that. I mean, how old is that? How old is that artwork? Think about that, and there's that meme. Have you seen the meme where the Native Americans, they were not drawing pictures of salads on the wall? Right.
No,
and so
absolutely not.
It's like that. So it's just funny. Right when you said that, I found that picture.
And then I think there's a couple of things there. It's one, that what you're talking about, but there's also a great deal of reverence for that, and they're chronicling experiences to share with others.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so much of this that's so deeply ingrained within us that it's so far into our subconscious, we don't even realize what it's all about. And, I've learned a lot in my mind, from Jordan Peterson and his way to, pull back the layers of the onion and expose all this stuff. I mean, his podcasts are absolutely fascinating. I feel like I've learned more from him than I learned in any college classes I've ever took.
Oh,
or
me
anything
too.
Else in my,
me too. You know what's? I don't know. I'm not super smart, so I'll listen to his podcast, and I'll have to write certain words down. And at the end of the podcast, I'll go back and look them up, because he'll say some shit that I'm like, what? But it makes sense, and he's just got a way to put things into perspective. But I wanted to ask you about, along these lines, we started getting into social media. We talked about, some of the threats to the future of hunting, and then you revert that back to, we were talking about people looking for an easy button or a cheat code to be a successful hunter. Do you think social media ties into why there's a lot of folks out there that tend to want to find that easy button versus the good old-fashioned, put your boots on and go out there and get it done yourself, put in the work?
I mean, you have a direct view into people's lives, and very successful hunters, and these guys have painted an aspirational lifestyle for people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I've done the same thing. I'm not immune to it. It's like, if I could turn back the clock and not do any of this stuff, would I? I don't know. Because, I don't care who you are. Everybody enjoys being appreciated by their peers and by others. It's a absolute important part of human nature. And it also provides an aspect of, there's a subconscious pressure to do better too, because of that. So, I mean, when you talk about all this stuff and why it's wrong, or when I say people talk about all this stuff and the negative aspects of all of it, to boil it all down and filter it, it's like there's some stuff that's going on that's probably beyond the comprehension of all of us, because it is so, there's so much of what is involved in human nature and tribalism and all this stuff that motivates us to do a lot of this stuff. The problem is we have this incredibly powerful little device in our hands that really gives us access to things that we've never had on any level, not even close. I mean, it's just, we have something in our hands, in our pocket, that is more powerful than the most powerful computer on earth, 30 or 35 years ago. And that's just insane, isn't it?
A 15-year-old kid today with a smartphone has access to more information than President Ronald Reagan did while sitting in the White House.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So that...
You know how I know that's true? Because you told me you read it on the internet, right?
I read it somewhere. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's an Abraham Lincoln quote. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm always you know, I don't know, because I enjoy social media, but I also feel like it does some damage, and I feel like it's gotten out of control and out of hand, from a sense of, you know, we can post. I've posted some nice animals over the years, and I'm proud of it. I'm going to do it again. If if I'm fortunate enough to get a nice animal down, I'm going to post it. Hell, I'll post a little animal. I don't really have any shame, but you know what doesn't get posted, when we're talking from a sense of hard work and what it takes to... I'm looking at one of your mule deer. He's just a monster freaking mule deer. We don't get deer like that up here. I'm just going to have to come see you or something.
Yeah, you used to. But...
Yeah, we used to. A little thing called wolves. But anyways, I look at pictures like that, and for me, like you, I was a hunter prior to social media. I'm that long enough in the tooth that I was around and hunting before social media existed.
I'm older than you.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I wasn't going to say that, Mike. I was just going to keep that to myself. But.
Well, I mean, if you can do the math, I did 30 years on the fire department. So,
yeah.
I mean, you start breaking it down that way. So
very true. And so, but I guess the point I'm getting to is, when I see that big buck you've got posted here, I could feel the pain in your feet, in your legs, in your back, and the work and the sweat and the blood and everything, and the emotional output that goes into getting a buck like that. You know, and I think that there's a lot of people that have, maybe they're just getting into hunting. They maybe don't understand the time and the effort and the education you put yourself through to get to a point to get an animal like that consistently. Yeah. We're not talking about, you know, the dude that gets real lucky getting out of his truck and there's a, you know, 200 class mule deer standing there off 50 yards off the road, because that does happen every once in a while. Very rarely, very rarely, but it does. I kind of lost my train of thought there, man. What was I getting to?
Well, I think what you're getting at is what the picture represents, more than just a grip and grin.
Yes, the representation.
The amount of effort that went into all that. And so I'm not sure which buck you're talking about. I don't know if it's my biggest deer. It's a big wide one, and I'm grabbing. Man. So
it looks like when you first walked up to him, because you're not grabbing him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right next to a bunch of bighorn sheep. God, you got a bunch of good pictures, man. We can make a whole episode about the pictures you post.
Yeah.
No. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you know, my biggest deer, I was actually sick with the flu. When I was doing a lot of hunting back then, my kids were in grade school, and you know how school works is, you know, they start school, and then about October, the frickin' flu bug starts jumping around elementary schools, and come hunting season, it's like every dad around's got the bug. And so I actually had the flu in October of the year I got my biggest buck, and I spotted him from the road way up on this mountain. It was probably a couple miles away. There was snow up high. It was raining down low. And I was looking at these bull elk that were up in this little snowy, it was just kind of like a little bowl with a patch of quakies on one side and then a big brushy pinyon juniper mountain below them. And right on the edge of the snow, as I'm looking through my spotting scope at these bulls, I see this buck walk across my field of view in the scope right below these bulls. And he didn't turn sideways, but I could see, even from that distance, huge black forks against the white snow. And that's what it looked like for me. And so I just about shit my pants at that point. And the reason why I was in my truck at that point was because I was feeling like shit because I was sick. But you know, at that point, I got the adrenaline pumping. Hauled ass down the road, parked, and started humping up this mountain. And it was probably it wasn't 2,000 feet of vertical, but it was quite a bit. And I got literally only 10 minutes from the vehicle, and I just sat down, my head's spinning, and I'm like, holy shit, I need to go home right now. And I did. I spent the next 2 days in bed. I was that sick with the flu.
Wow.
And, I went back there and went up there, and it was my third trip after I felt better up that mountain looking for him that I finally found him. And, it was late in the day, and I made a great shot when he got up out of his bed, and shot him in the back of the neck in the brush at less than 100 yards and dumped him right there. And I knew he was wide when I walked up on him, and he's 38.5 inches wide. And up until last year, he was the largest net scoring typical out of Colorado since 1974.
No kidding.
So he was. So there's a guy in Grand Junction killed one that's a little bit bigger last year. But
is that the one, the Wide Wednesday, and since it took over 15 years, you're wearing like an orange hat?
Well, I'm probably wearing an orange hat in most of them.
Oh, I guess you are. Yeah. You guys have to down in Colorado, don't you?
Yeah.
I
don't know. My big, that's what he is. He's a little over 220.
Okay, yeah, he's a smoking buck. Just a smoker.
I mean, a true giant. Yeah, he's a 208 and 5/8 net typical, and has a gross typical frame of 216, and then a net typical frame of like 212, and then his net typical score is 208. So
it's right there in the button. Change, cheaters, and deducted. Lots of that thing is just a masher. Holy cow! Yeah, I used to see bucks like that when I was young. I haven't seen bucks like that ever for years. On the
everybody says that, Jim.
I don't know. It's just I don't know if that's there is all the old timers up here. They've got bucks like that on the wall up in North Idaho, even in western Montana, and
sure.
But and they say the same thing. We'd go into the same areas and they're just not there anymore. And so anyway.
No, they're just they're killed when they're 2 and 3 year olds. So
yeah. What do you think? What do you think has changed the most? You started hunting. What was that, like the '80s, late '80s, early '90s? What do you think has changed the most?
Yeah, my first deer hunt I think was '82, and I moved out to Colorado in '88. I would say the biggest change I've seen. And, the technology is obvious, and that just comes with the territory. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest change is the type of hunter that's out there now. The younger hunters that are coming into the game are willing to put in the effort, and they're more driven. They don't have the skill set or the knowledge, but they get by with just putting the boots to it and, hunting together and groups of, there a lot of guys are, there's 2, 3, 4 guys hunting together. And so that is a super efficient way of going about it. Even, some of these guys don't even have tags. They just go along with their buddies. And that's something that, when I was first hunting is, we all had tags and we all went out on our own and, got back to get, occasionally you'd be paired up with somebody during the day, but quite often you're by yourself all day.
Yeah.
And so there's a different way about it. And, people are not afraid, and part of it is just there's an element to a lot of these guys that they're really content with the process. They enjoy the backpacking, the equipment, archery's for what's the word I'm looking for? Gearheads. Archery is just an absolute drug for people because there's so much you can get with that. And also, the backpacking thing goes right along with that. So you combine like a backpacking archery hunter, and there's guys that are just really happy with going through the motions and being out there with the tag in their pocket and enjoying the outdoors. And I see a lot of it, and, good for them, man. It's just,
seriously. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I totally agree with that. There are guys.
Begrudge nobody.
They are just happy as a pig in shit, getting out there, like literally $2,000 worth of gear on their back, and just getting out there and camping and enjoying, being connected with something wild, whether they notch a tag or not. It's an interesting take. It's an interesting way to go.
Yeah, and I think we're, the whole idea of this premise that was put forth about hunter numbers dropping and everything. Well, I think everybody in the West would collectively agree at this point. It's like, yeah, that's not our problem here anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe it is. Maybe it is in the voting booth, but certainly not on the mountain. And so what we have is we've got overhunted herds in every frickin' state, other than when it's such a limited coveted draw unit that's the only way the pressure is limited from that perspective. So with that kind of pressure, you have less older age class animals, you have more people out on the mountain, and you have less success by more people. So, in order to, I guess I'm kind of brainstorming this with my premise about all these young hard chargers out there. With less success and the desire to do it, there's also a desire to learn more and look for ways to get the knowledge without, having the ability to, close the circle, so to speak, actually make a kill. So there's a lot going on right now with, and, there's people that are picking up on that. Like, I know Randy Newberg and I saw Remy Warren's was attached to something, but they're putting on these things they call master class. I think your buddy Dirk is doing some of that stuff with elk hunting and these basically classes for people to go learn how to hunt. And
yeah, a lot of them are online courses. Like you're talking to Dirk was doing the Elk Collective, and that's with John Gabriel and Dan Staten, and there's a lot of that.
Yeah, and then Colorado Parks and Wildlife on their website has the Elk Hunting University or something along those lines.
Oh, really?
And so and that's actually that preceded all these other guys.
Oh, yeah, that's the Corey Jacobson one.
And so it's interesting to me, and I'm a little turned off by it, but it's like I can't get emotionally invested in being upset about it. But I also understand that there's people out there that are hungry for information.
What turns you off about it, Mike? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. You're asking for my opinion here. So I guess what I see is, the unwillingness for people to just put in the time, effort, gain the experience on their own, and learn. And there's so much value to that, and which is kind of crazy because I'm kind of parroting what my next article is for Western Hunter, and Chris just gave me the word value. That's a theme in the next issue, so I'm going to write on that. But the value of learning on your own and getting those hard lessons. You cannot do anything online in a class, in a lecture. I mean, that nothing comes close than failing yourself in the moment, in the woods, on the mountain, all that. And so the lessons to be learned out there, you just get so much more from that than you do from all the other stuff. But there's a place for the other stuff. So
there is, and I wouldn't disagree with that. The lessons I learned by screwing up, which I screw up way more than I don't screw up. I've messed up more hunts than any tags I've notched. Definitely, there's a lot more value in it. I think where the value on like those online courses come in is when you have a lot of. I'll give you one example of myself. The way I was raised and taught to hunt elk was way wrong. The person that I looked to teach me how to hunt elk, my mentor, and this isn't my dad. He didn't really hunt elk. He hunted elk like you hunt mule deer. And I was led so astray. And when you're raised in that and you go out and you do it that way year after year after year, and you have all these unnotched tags, kind of in the back of your head, for me, it took a long time for me to realize, something's wrong. I'm doing it wrong. I was, like 20 by the time I realized I'm doing this completely wrong. And it took a long time because this is even when I was 20. There was no online courses. There were no podcasts. There was no, there was magazines and maybe a couple of websites. And so I had to retrain myself. But back then when I had the epiphany that everything I was taught about elk hunting was off base, and there was a course like like the Elk Collective available, I would have jumped all over that because I had a lot of catching up to do because I was taught so wrong that I wasn't even learning the right mistakes or learning the right way from the mistakes I was making, if that makes sense. They weren't teaching me the right things. And so,
Sure.
then you look at, there's a lot of people that don't have hunting mentors that want to get into hunting. But when it comes down to it, there is no truer lesson than when you're on the mountain and you blow a call in on a bull elk, or you just whatever happens to make that dream run off right in front of your eyes.
God. Yeah.
That is a hard. My daughter just learned a lesson. With spring bear, she learned a lesson about checking that rifle, making sure it's tuned up and that scope's dialed in right, and so it's just it's a big topic. I guess we could do like a whole podcast just on that. But
well, when you say you weren't hunting elk properly and you were hunting them like mule deer, well, that just tells me you're thinking about bow hunting elk in the rut versus hunting late season bulls, which you basically hunt like you're hunting mule deer. So without you even saying that, I know where you were getting at.
Yeah,
and so I would say that I enjoy hunting late season bulls because I can hunt them like I hunt mule deer, and the mule deer hunting in Colorado is shit now. So I kind of scratched that itch that way. So
is it getting bad there? Because obviously, I don't.
Yes.
So my
yes, you were living in a shack in northern Idaho and with almost like a cave, aren't you? You're not paying any attention to what's going on in the world.
I don't get out much,
Mike. Colorado's been suffering for quite a few years. We got chronic wasting disease. We've got excessive tag allotments, and we've hunted our mule deer to death. And I've written articles about it ad nauseum for Western Hunter. And it's just a problem. We're just too good at killing mule deer now, and we're lacking older age class bucks all across the state. And now we got the winter kill in the Northwest and tag reduction, and then a chronic wasting disease management philosophy that involves a lot of tag allotments for trying to reduce mature buck numbers because they're convinced CWD is spread by bucks traveling from doe group to doe group. And so all this, there's a huge focus by people coming to Colorado specifically wanting to kill a big buck. So there's a lot of pressure. And when you have that mentality, and, I can't blame people for what they're doing. They're coming here hopes of killing a big buck and then settling for little ones at the end of the season because they don't want to go home empty-handed. There could not be a worst case scenario for mule deer buck management than that. And so we've got big problems here. And so, South Idaho is the same way. I've talked to Steve Alderman about this, and it's kind of the same way there, but on a much larger scale in the state. So,
yeah, I think that. Well, maybe I'm wrong because it's a lot of over-the-counter stuff here too. But it does seem like they're a little liberal with giving out tags in Colorado. What's the state agency doing about it? Anything good coming from that end?
On the state level?
Yeah. There's a lot of great trail cameras out there. I've run the Tacticams, and that's a great system, especially their cell cameras. I've run a lot of different brands that I've recommended to you guys in the past, but the right fit at the right time is the Spypoint trail cameras. I have a couple of the Flex G36s that are cell cams. They do a really good job for keeping track of everything that's going on my property. And I also have for, kind of out in the backcountry, I've got these Force Pros. Man, the picture quality on those Force Pros is just amazing. If you guys saw some of the bear pictures I was showing you during Spring Bear, that was a Force Pro. Really great cameras. I'm really excited that they chose to sponsor the show because I've been using Spypoint for a long time, and I think you guys are going to be just as happy as I am with them. And check them out at spypoint.com and let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. Some of you might be old enough to remember back in the day when you can go to Walmart and get you a Savage rifle for very cheap. And they did a good job, but they weren't equipped for some of the hardcore hunting out there that we do today. If that's a memory that you have with Savage, like I do, I'm telling you, it's not like that anymore. Savage Arms is one of the premier firearms manufacturers dedicated to us hunters. I have this freaking Savage 110. It's the Apex Hunter, and this thing is amazing. I love the AccuTrigger. You can also get them with the AccuFit, which allows you to adjust the stock. So if you're buying them for youth hunters or whatever, or just, rifles fit you different. It's so flexible. It's so perfect for every hunter. It's just not the same Savage that it was 30, 40 years ago. It's a great firearm for everyday use while hunting, and they support hunters and they support this show, and I really appreciate Savage Arms. Check them out anywhere firearms are sold, or go to savagearms.com to find out more. What is it? Colorado Parks and Wildlife? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The Colorado Division of Wildlife and the Parks Department were merged together, and so that's why it's referred to that way a few years back. And so Colorado's big focus within the state agency is wolves right now. Our governor has just a chokehold on the whole agency regarding this. He's rebuilt the Wildlife Commission with land use and wildlife activists, which are not pro-hunting activists. These are people that, somebody told me this and I can't confirm it, but they said there's nobody on the Wildlife Commission that has held a big game license currently. So
that'd be something to check into for sure. Because I think I heard that too, Mike. And we've done a few episodes. I've done a couple episodes with Chris Rowe and Guy Duplan about that regarding wolves.
Sure,
It's been a big topic this last winter,
Yeah, I've listened to all of Chris's stuff with Aaron Snyder and his own stuff, and then I did listen to the one. And Chris and I are buddies. He is an amazing talker.
Yes, he is. I love him, man.
That dude could rattle off some shit like nobody else.
You know what? So, he didn't answer. I texted him the other day, and he hasn't responded to me. I should give him a hard time. Yeah. See, he's out there praying for rain still or something.
I hope not, because they've been getting a shitload of rain.
Have they been getting pounded? Oh, they needed it. They needed it bad.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your reaction to the wolves coming to Colorado?
Well, it was. I'm not happy about it. For years, the Division of Wildlife was against it because they just felt that there wasn't enough room for wolves in this state. Because it's not just what you turn loose; it's what's going to end up being here. Mm-hmm. And so, it also makes work for them. So they're against it, as they've been against grizzly. There's people that are, don't think that they don't want to turn grizzlies loose in Colorado again.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
So there's that also. But the problem with it is you're sentencing some of these animals to death. Although the anti-hunters did a great job setting up the whole proposition, the ballot initiative, to sneak out the lethal management right from underneath everybody's noses.
Yep. Just
the way it was worded, as designating them a non-game animal, and no lethal control. But for all intents and purposes, by doing what you're doing, you're sentencing some of these animals to death. And that's, don't think that I'm just against it because I'm worried about wolves getting killed. That's not why. I just feel like, the wolf, it doesn't have a place in Colorado anymore. It'd be neat if there was just a few of them around, and occasionally you could hear one while you're out. But there's no stasis or balance in nature. People think that's part of the big selling point of the wolf lovers was they want to create balance. They keep using that term balance, but there is no balance in nature. There's an ebb and flow, and there's a rise and fall of population. So what I do know is by having wolves on the landscape, it will seriously impact our hunting and people's ability to enjoy it. So, it will in the future curtail a lot of the available hunting opportunities all across the state. And, you're talking about animals that have never seen a wolf, and they have no idea what they're going to get into. And it's going to be a literal slaughter in places.
Yeah, I can attest to that. That's exactly what happened in Idaho with our elk. We had one of our units, the, Unit 10, I think, the Lolo zone. Anyway, 90% reduction in elk numbers in a once great elk unit, just due to wolves. And so I think that, for me, where I see catastrophe is not the fact that we've got these pro-wolf activists out there that want to release a few wolves into Colorado. That's not the issue. The issue is they've got this overbearing wolf management plan that, like what you were saying, takes all lethal means to control and manage the wolves in the state of Colorado out of the hands of the people that need to be out there managing it. And the only real way to effectively manage wolves is through trapping. People can sit and talk about how they're going to go hunting wolves, and there's a couple of guys that are really good at it. I've had both of them on the show, and they're really good wolf hunters. But for the most of us, people in Colorado, they've never hunted wolves. We never hunted wolves here in Idaho. We had to bring trappers down from Alaska to show us how to trap wolves. And that's the problem is when you've already you were alluding to the struggling mule deer populations already in the state of Colorado, and the overabundance of tags issued for elk and deer and these ungulate species. The moose are the first to go, by the way. To release wolves into Colorado without some sort of management plan, knowing what the state of Idaho and Montana have gone through with our wolf issues, and I'm not even talking about the cattle ranches. I'm talking just the ungulate species and the population, and this fantasy of letting nature balance itself that doesn't exist. So to have all that data and to still come into Colorado and say, let's just release wolves without any kind of management plan is fucking ludicrous.
Well, it is ludicrous, but you got to look at what is their intent. I mean, all these people are not, it's not simply about putting wolves out there so you can hear a wolf howl on your camping trip. There is, this sounds convoluted and conspiratorial. And I used to be a little embarrassed just to say it at first, but I'm completely 100% convinced of it at this point. They want to eliminate hunting, and what better way to do it than to put wolves out there, and the wolves can control the big game populations, and that would alleviate the need for hunters to be even out there. And I think is what it's not a pie in the sky. That's a realistic idea, and there's a reason why Colorado's ground zero. Colorado touches 6 or 7 states surrounding it.
Wolves are
Nebraska.
Those wolves, yep.
Yeah, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Wyoming.
Yep,
and those all share a border with Colorado,
and they're all going to suffer the same consequence. Where these wolves are obviously wolves don't stop at the state line. And Colorado already knows that. You guys already have a pack of wolves that have wandered down from Wyoming. And so it's just, it's such it's funny because like 10 years ago, I would have heard you say that, and I'd have been like kind of what your reaction was. Oh, that's a, conspiracy theory. Man, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory anymore. I really do think that there is that level of intent to reduce, so there's no more necessity to issue hunting tags. And what an easy way to justify, ending this American and human tradition of hunting. And it's just part of it.
Just a real quick for fact checkers. I know Colorado doesn't actually share a border with Texas, but it's just across the panhandle a few miles. So
yeah, it wouldn't take much.
But back to the wolves. There's basically our governor. I don't know if you're familiar with the politics of what's going on here.
I know he's a big-time liberal.
Well, he is a big-time liberal, but his husband is a nationally recognized animal rights activist.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did know that.
And so they basically took the Wildlife Commission, which is all those are governor-appointed positions, and he basically got rid of some and created an echo chamber of like-minded individuals, land use activists, and anti-hunters. And they're the ones that are crafting policy for the state right now. We've literally gotten our ass kicked here in Colorado big time with this. Mm-hmm. And it had nothing to do with anything other than we're blindsided by something that nobody ever saw coming was the idea of that this governor's husband was going to create a situation where they basically reshape the entire Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission and are reshaping policy for the future of Colorado's wildlife and hunting. And the only thing that's going to stop them is a judge or, an election where they appoint another governor or elect another governor that's going to take some of these policies back, and maybe possibly another ballot initiative. But this wolf thing is, they can stall it, but it's coming.
It's coming.
And,
yep.
And it's super concerning.
How realistic is it? Given again, I don't live in Colorado. I don't really know, the cultural side of it from the political standpoint. But how realistic is it for maybe a governor that is a little bit more pro-hunting to be elected in the state of Colorado these days?
Unlikely, because one of the problems is that the Republican Party keeps picking candidates that aren't moderate. They're very, very conservative. And, that's, I guess it is what it is, but you're not going to get a hardline right-wing conservative elected in Colorado. You're going to need a moderate that is, the people are going to have to concede some of their ideology to in order to vote for them. That is something, there's a lot of heroes in the graveyard, as we both know. And if it's so important to you to have this hardline right-wing guy or woman in charge of the state, you're not going to have it happen, because there's just enough of a Democratic voting population in the big cities on the Front Range of Colorado that it's simply impossible. The numbers just aren't there anymore. So we went from, since I've been here in Colorado, I moved here in '88. We went from a red state to a purple to a solid blue.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
I've noticed that, and that's the trouble with just politics in general anymore, is everything has gotten so extreme. Like the differences between Republican and Democrats, back in the 60s through the 80s or whatever, they were obvious differences, but it's not like they were. I'll put it to you this way: I feel like one of the parties flat out wants to destroy the foundation of what America is, and the other party feels like the way they need to react to it is by becoming more extreme than what they were. I don't know.
Circling the wagons, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it's creating this greater disparity between just your average Americans that, people, because of social media and the way that the media is in general, people that are not really folks that want to keep up on political issues and follow that kind of stuff. They hear or see one headline and all of a sudden they're like a left-wing extremist or something. It's like small things change people's minds and they attach themselves to these causes that they don't really know anything about. And I think that's what, like, the majority of the anti-hunting population is made up of, are these people that don't actually know shit about wildlife management. They don't know anything about hunting. They don't understand the human connection to hunting and the history of hunting and how it ties into who we are today. They just need to attach themselves to a cause to feel important. And sure, I want to protect a white-tailed deer because I think they have cute tails when they run off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much of this is based on people's ignorant sentiments. Mm-hmm. And you have people in the city that just like, hey man, it sounds pretty cool. We should have some wolves out there. That's a great idea. Well, I can't say that I blame them, because they're ignorant to the idea of what is the truth behind it. All they ever see is these, bitchin' TV shows with wolves, romantically going around taking care of their pups and puking up dead deer that they probably scavenged, they didn't kill, right? Everything that goes along with that. And, you don't ever see the videos of a wolf tearing apart, a calf moose, eating it alive. Why don't we ever see the videos of dogs that are getting killed by wolves, other than some Instagram sites that have those kind of videos? Can you imagine, like, these dogs that were killed up in North Park in the northern part of the state by wolves this past winter? I'm sure there was pictures taken of them, but these pictures were never shown to the public. But these people's pets were literally pulled apart and eaten by wolves, and that would make people think twice about, like, there is more to this than just romantic wolves running around the woods howling. And totally. So there's this, and there's the censorship involved in the whole process. Is it goes across the board with the whole culture war our country's experiencing right now. So,
well, and interestingly, the people that refuse to share the pictures of those dogs that you were talking about, they're the same people that will jump on Instagram and come to pages like some of my friends who are prolific wolf trappers and wolf hunters, and they'll post those pictures all day long to fire up their own base and try to fundraise. Look at this wolf killer right here, and they get the worst pictures. This is why I always caution hunters, and trappers as to what they're posting, because this is what happens. Like there's this group, and I follow them just so I can kind of keep an eye on what they're doing. But they'll take pictures from especially like western Montana and northern Idaho. I know all the hunters and trappers out here that actually get wolves, and I'll see they'll fuzz out their face, but they'll get this bloody picture of this wolf and they'll put it all over their Instagram. They have thousands of followers, and the underlying message is wolves are in danger right now. We have to save them. Look at what's going on. Send us money. And that feeds into their machine, because that's all it is a machine. It's a cottage industry. It's a great way to generate revenue, and people fall for it. And then they're all of a sudden, we've got all these anti-hunters that don't even know why they're anti-hunters other than they saw a picture on Instagram. It's really frustrating.
No, some people are just pretty short-sighted. And, when I say some people, like people in the hunting world, it's like, you don't have to put everything out there on social media. And I appreciate the attitude that there is an attitude like, fuck you, I have the right to do this. This is my freedom of speech, and I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, it's like, well, yeah, that's all true. Yes.
Yeah. I respect that to an extent.
However, is it helping us? Is it helping to ensure that your grandchildren will be able to hunt someday?
Yeah.
Not a frickin' chance, buddy.
And ask yourself in two ways. Is it like, when you do that, I will never be the kind of guy. We were talking politics. I'm very conservative. I'm very conservative. I like the government as small as it can possibly be. Right.
Sure.
But so I don't want to ever tell anybody what
individual responsibility,
responsibility, self-reliance. A commitment to the greater good.
I'm with you.
A moral.
What's funny is most people would agree with that.
They would.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to tell somebody what they can and can't post. And I do respect the individual that says, you know what, fuck you. I can do what I want, and this is who I am, and I'm not going to hide who I am. I get that, but you got to ask yourself, like what Mike was just saying, is what you're putting on social media hurting or helping the future of hunting? Because that's really what's on the line. So where I will never try to take another person's rights away, when you're trying to do something that is not harming the greater good, but when you are harming the greater good, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say something.
Yeah. So, we've all got our own little circles and echo chambers, and to give a visualization, if you took like the Olympic logo with the interconnecting circles, that's what our hunting world is. It's all these circles of interconnection, where you might have the bow hunting circle and the rifle hunting circle and the bird hunting circle, but they're all interconnected on some level.
Yeah.
And so and if you look at it from afar, it's one big image of these interconnected circles. Even if you think you're just in the BHA circle or the bow hunter circle or the rifle hunter circle, the elk hunter circle, all this, we are all connected on some level here. And so, there is a war taking place against what we hold dearly, and that is our desire and ability to go out on the landscape and procure meat and experience the hunt, bring home a set of antlers or horns. All of this, there is a large contingent of people that outnumber us greatly that want to take that away from us. Mm-hmm. And so those people, we aren't going to change their minds. The ones in the middle that have some level of tolerance and common sense those are the people that are going to save us, not ourselves. Those people, the ones in the middle, the swing voters that go back and forth, and you may say they may not have the courage of the convictions, but they also might be pragmatic people that look at the situation like, yeah, that sounds good right now. No, that doesn't sound good right now.
Yep, exactly.
And so you may be an idealist that believes in your right to, show a video of you snuffing out a coyote in a trap on Instagram, but it's like, man, that it really doesn't do any good. And so there's some people that will be listening to this and all they can think of is, well, fuck you, Mike Duplan. You want to take that away from me? You're just you're just afraid of what these people are doing. No, I'm afraid of losing what I hold dear.
Yep.
And that's my desire and ability to go out there and hunt. And I'm afraid, my daughter's getting into hunting and I want her to be able to do it. I don't have any grandchildren yet, but someday maybe I will. And I'd like to see that passed down through my family. And my daughter's really embracing and enjoying the experience, the field to the table. She didn't hunt growing up because of my ex-wife, but when she grew up, she's come into the hunting world with me, and she's killed a few elk, and we really enjoy our time together. I mean, it's nice. Super special for me to spend time with my daughter. And so, all this it's under threat. I mean, it's under threat because of the perception of people who are ignorant and that are against us. Both.
I couldn't agree more.
It's not one or the other. It's both.
I couldn't agree more, and I love this is again I say this a lot, but man, I love doing this podcast for this very reason. It's so educational for me, and to hear somebody's perspective like you, Mike. You've got a really good way of articulating this stuff, and it helps me learn, and I just think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. But it's so funny the way you put that too, because I'm way into taking my girls hunting. They're 12 and 14 right now, and it's an absolute ball. I mean, it's an absolute ball taking them out, and they're learning. Especially my 14-year-old. She is absolutely passionate about hunting, and she wants to know all about elk behavior and deer behavior and bear behavior. She wants to learn these animals so that she could become a better hunter. And it's amazing what I learned from her, because of the things that I didn't know she didn't know, and she'll learn it on her own, and she'll tell me about it, and so anyways, the point is she was saying, well, I hope we were hunting bears, and up here we bait because it's real thick and real brushy, and really it's either baiting or hounds. That's how you get.
That's okay. Bears are hard to kill. They're
they absolutely are. We didn't tag out. No,
you like coming out at night when you can't hunt.
For sure, especially the big ones, man. Anyways, the point is as we have this one bait site that produces a lot of bears. There's a lot of bears on the camera all the time, and it's real fun to go up there. And she was saying, I hope this spot is still this good when I have kids, so I can bring them here.
Wow,
and that statement struck me, Mike, because it's like,
oh yeah,
honey, I hope it's still as good as well, and I pray to God that the opportunity for you to live as a free American and do this is
you'll never forget that. I'm sure at the moment it made your heart soar. And
absolutely.
You think fondly back on that, and you love to share that very quote, that moment, and that's super special.
I'll never forget
there's people people don't understand that hunting and being in the outdoors is far more than just simply pulling the trigger and killing an animal. And it's boiled down to that in a very simplistic form to present to the other side as a form of ammunition in the war against us. And so, we have a big fight out there, and what it is the people in the middle. It's trying to hold on to them, and the people are tolerant and are willing to be open-minded and listening. And there's only one way to convince them, and that's with, good images and also through their stomachs.
Yeah.
And I am 100% in firm belief that the best way you can be a good ambassador of hunting is to share meat with non-hunters. And that will convince a lot of people
Yeah, I
right
couldn't
there.
agree more.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you want to talk about all the other stuff, and coming out against Joe Rogan and Cam Haines and some whatever we might personally be turned off on, that we think is bad for hunting. All that, the best thing we can do is share meat.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's a
like,
good
this
point.
is why I do this. Here,
That's
yeah,
a
here's
great point. And it's not
here's some hamburger. Make tacos
exactly.
for your kids with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it's not even about how good the meat is really. It's the overall philosophy that here's a part of the bounty that I worked very hard to get, and I'm going to share it with you. And that just shines this positive light overall on hunters, because that one non-hunter with that positive experience is going to remember that the next time they see some shitty video of somebody mistreating a wounded deer, that one that came out a few years back. That positive experience that they had with you sharing the meat is going to override that negative image that they had from some douche canoe that knew better than to post that but did anyway. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a great point, Mike. What go ahead.
I saw this happen firsthand with myself at the fire department. I would, I would consider myself probably the most driven and maybe I don't know. But I don't want to brag about this, but there weren't anybody else on my fire department of 350 guys that did the kind of hunting I've done or put the amount of time and effort into it. There's guys that hunted, but that not on my level. And when I went to British Columbia and got my stone sheep, I didn't get it till my third trip. I had 33 days of hunting over 3 trips. Long story short, I drove up there every time. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I drove was because I wanted to bring all the meat home myself. And, that's a long damn ways to northern British Columbia from Colorado.
Heck yeah, it is.
And when I brought the meat back, I took a backstrap, which is, obviously a very highly regarded piece of meat. And I took it to the firehouse and I shared it with my crew. And wild sheep backstrap, that's pretty high end stuff, man. You put that on the grill and cook it medium rare, and it's just like people are just like stunned. Wow. That is like, I cannot believe how good it is. And so right there, I had that, my crew of 6, 5 other guys that I don't believe any of them were hunters, and all of them were just completely impressed with the idea of like the meat and eating it. And, it's like, you can't even put a number on stone sheep meat per pound, but there's that idea that people brought that up and that kind of thing. But there was a lot of people that I convinced simply by doing that stuff. But I'd make smoked meatloaf with wild game at home and bring it in and share it, and I was pretty cognizant of doing that on a regular basis, and I'd try to do it when I'd get roved to other stations and do it with other crews too. So,
yeah, that's amazing.
It's something that I really feel and it's, don't do it just out of, it's something people need to seek out is like, hey man, make a list of people you think would enjoy and appreciate it, and bring them some meat, even if it's just a pound of deer burger or elk burger or whatever it is. Just bring them something, and that is it's a lot of people are like, man, I eat everything I kill. Well, that's great, but sharing some of that, it will go a long ways, and I think it's something we could all do in the future and to help ourselves. Yeah. So I espouse the virtue of sharing.
I think that's going to be a key takeaway out of this episode is make it a point. This guy, I think that's a good message to send out. Like, maybe folks listening to this, we should all set a goal and make it a point to share some wild game meat this fall with somebody that that is a non-hunter. And just a pound of ground it would do the trick.
Still, somebody will say, well, Mike didn't like Randy Newberg's masterclass idea. I'm like, that will be their takeaway. Like, okay,
it totally will, man. It doesn't matter. I said this on the last episode. It doesn't matter what you say. Somebody's going to be pissed when you come on this show or any podcast.
I really like Randy. He and I know each other, and I think he does a great job of putting the right message out there for people.
Yeah.
And say what you want about most people in the hunting world. Most of them are pretty damn good people, and they're trying to do a good job. I guess, some people are trying to make a living doing that, and that does have a clouding effect on some things because, it becomes your job. So, but, it's like, I don't worry about some of that stuff as much as I used to. I used to get into just battles with people on, message boards like Monster Muleys back in the day and shit like that.
Yeah, me too.
My buddy John Legnard called me the thread killer because he's like, man, people get back and forth, and you jump in and just smoke everybody, and that would be it.
The thread killer, I like that one. That should be your Instagram handle, Mike.
No. That's going by.
I know we're getting close here, but I thought of this question after because we talked on the phone yesterday, and it sounds like a cheesy question, but I like the question for somebody like you that doesn't have, just a couple of years of experience. You have a few decades of experience. And so I think it's I don't know, it's a deeper question than it might sound. But the question is what is your favorite thing about hunting? What makes hunting so important to you?
I think you can't just put one thing. There's many, many things that I love. I absolutely love being in the outdoors. I live down near Ridgeway, Colorado, and I live here for a reason, because I want to be up in the mountains. I go hiking almost every day. I'm out looking at wildlife just to look at wildlife. I do a lot of wildlife photography. We eat wild game probably 80% of the time, and I love looking at the horns and antlers of the animals that I've taken, and I love shed antlers. I don't know if there's one thing. I really couldn't put my finger on one thing, but I'm so deeply immersed in the whole experience, process, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, that it's just, I don't know any other way. This is me. I am an outdoorsman, a hunter. I fish, I hike, I just love it all. We bought a house specifically so I could look out the window at the mountains while I'm drinking my morning coffee. That was my
kind of people, brother.
Yeah, and I have an epic view out my window, and I worked my ass off my whole life. I built extra houses beyond what I live in on the side gig from my job, and that was my way of getting ahead.
Well,
so and it's to enjoy the fruits of working. And I've got an epic view out my window at Mount Sneffels. It's 14,000 and so feet tall, and it's like there's nothing that I could say is my favorite thing, but probably my favorite hunting to do would be sheep hunting at this point, because I just absolutely love the mountains and the alpine, and there's something super magical about an old ram up stuff. So,
oh man, for sure, I agree with that. It's the country they're in that just does something about sheep hunting with that. But let me ask you this: did I preemptively set you up with that question? Did you know that I was going to ask you that question at all?
No, because when we talked earlier, I think you're asking me a rhetorical question for the benefit of the audience. But when we talked earlier, we basically agreed that we don't want to use up all our bullets right now just when we're getting acquainted on the phone. So, I wanted to touch base with you before we talked, because I always feel like that's a good way to establish a little rapport before a podcast.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
No, I had no idea you were going to ask me that. So.
Okay, so and the reason I bring that up is, for everybody listening and any of the anti-hunters out there that are listening, right now I've got somebody who I would put, I have a tendency to kind of categorize things in my life, and I don't care if it's a work-related thing for my day job, I don't care if it's podcasting or hunters or whatever. I kind of categorize things, and I would kind of, I think I would categorize you, Mike, as an expert level, legendary level kind of hunter. You've been doing it a long time. You've knocked down some fantastic animals. I can tell just between talking to you and following you on Instagram and everything else that I get to know about you, you're absorbed in this lifestyle. So when I asked you, there was a purpose to it about what your favorite thing about hunting is. Not at any point did you say that it was shooting or killing an animal. It's the lifestyle. It's everything that is involved in the lifestyle. And the overall experience that nobody understands that don't hunt. People that don't hunt and people that have a negative connotation or a negative impression of what hunting is, all they think about is that moment of impact when that arrow hits the animal or the bullet hits the animal or whatever. They don't think about the morning coffee sitting on high, 10,000 feet on a mountain. They don't think about the game meat that sits in your freezer for months after the hunt. They don't think about the back pain of a hauling an elk off the mountain. All these things that we talk about all the time. And it just goes to show you're somebody who's been doing this a long time. You've been in the, riding for the hunting industry and hunting all over the place. And I just, I thought that's the answer I thought I would get. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say those things. I think, you're doing a fantastic job with your podcast. I get me a little to talk about myself, but, I had to listen to yours before I got on, man. What I found right away is you're doing a good job, and I like the kind of guests you're having on, the conversations you have. You didn't once ask me to go through how do you kill all these big bucks. It's like, dude, there's so much more to it than just it's not a cookbook. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely not a cookbook. So, I in full disclosure, you cut out there for a minute. I thought I'd lost you, but
no, my wife pulled up. She just got home and the phone Bluetooth to the car.
So is that what happened? Okay. Yeah. So that way that way, of course, right when you were paying me a compliment, you cut it. I don't get a lot of compliments, Mike. So,
well, you're doing a damn good job. Yeah.
I'm totally kidding. I appreciate it. Well, your wife got home, and we've been going here for over an hour. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed having you on, Mike. It's like my pleasure to meet you, and I'm glad we are at least acquainted now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's been a good discussion. Yeah. Well, we've had no trouble covering almost an hour and a half. So let's give it a few months and give it another go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
after hunting season, touch base in the winter.
I'd love to do like a hunting recap of this coming season for you. So I'm excited. Those of you listening, Mike Duplan Duplan is on Instagram at Mike Duplan, which is, if you guys want to spell his last name, Duplan, but it'll be in the show notes to make it easy. You can just click right there. Any closing thoughts, brother?
No, I just I want to say that even though this might sound hypocritical, I do have a book that I co-authored with David Long. It's called The Edge, The Guide to Hunting Mountain Mule Deer. And we still have a few copies left. And if you're interested, go to Western Hunter Magazine's website, and they're being sold there. So
sweet. Yeah, I forgot about that. I meant to ask you about the book.
Yeah, and that's not why I came on to plug it, but I know. It just
it's been out a long time.
There's been 2018, so 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So it's it's an insight. David and I have both been pretty successful hunting big mule deer, and there's a lot of information and there's a lot of lessons to be learned by just tales of some of the hunts that we've gone on, what we've done and things like that. So I'm not saying it'll be the magic recipe for you, but it's definitely you're going to get information from two guys that have actually seen it and done it, and so it's
I'm sold.
Pretty cheap investment, relatively speaking. $29, I think is.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man! I'm gonna pick that book up. I meant to order that actually last night, and I totally forgot. So I'll grab one of those guys. Jump on. What website did you say it was?
It's Western Hunter Magazine's website, and I'm thinking it's westernhunter.org, but I'm brain farting it, and so I might be mistaken. But if you just look for Western Hunter magazine and their website, it's not too hard to find with anybody. With a little common sense and Google ability.
Yeah, westernhunter.net.
.net, that's what
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. And books and journals. You know what? I'll put that in the show notes, too. Let me pull it up here. That way it's
very
just
cool.
Easy. So I'll track it down. Mike, I appreciate it. That was seriously, that was a fun conversation. So let's plan to do it again. And if I don't talk to you in the meantime, have a hell of a hunting season this year. Here it is. I found the book, The Edge. I'm going to put that in the show notes. So, good deal.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, you as well, man. Thanks a bunch, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Take care.
You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram @TheWesternHuntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.